Alright, so welcome to video 2. As we did in video 1, we now have our character in game, and we can see that we have animations on the character working well. We have a run or punch, all of the different animations we needed, but that is not the playable character. So, we can, if we play the game, we're still going to be playing as the default Unreal mannequin. If we were to drag our character into the game, it would just be a static mesh that is doing nothing, and we could just see him there standing, right? So what we're going to need to do is steal some of the functionality that is allowing this third-person character, this mannequin, to be our player character. Okay. Before we do that, we're going to create a couple of new files in Maya that's going to help, or I'm sorry, in Unreal that's going to allow us to do that. So I'm going to right-click in my male character folder here, and I'm going to go to Animation, and I'm going to create a blend space 1D. So which character do I want this on? I want this on my male skeleton, not my mannequin. And I'll call this male blend space. Okay. Now, what this is a transition. It's like a blending between two different animations. So if I double click on this, you'll see currently nothing is happening. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my idle animation to the beginning of this timeline. Okay. So you'll see this playing the idle. I'm going to drag my run animation to the ending of it. And what you'll see is as I drag across here, it's going to blend from my idle to my run. Right? And so this is going to give us this is 50% idle, 50% run. And so this gives us an Unreal an ability to blend between those two animations. Okay, we're going to need that later, so our character won't just pop into the run animation. It will kind of blend to a start, and it'll seem a little smoother. Now, the other thing we're going to need is a blueprint. Let's look at a different blueprint in here to understand what that is exactly. If we go to this third-person BP, and we go to third-person character, that's a blueprint file. And you'll see that it's a bunch of nodes. And this is a visual way of scripting or programming what is going to happen. So you'll see that our gamepad input, this is a bunch of instructions that allows the game to function. This is sort of a visual way of making this to happen instead of having to write code in C++ or something like that. This is really powerful in Unreal, but not necessarily something that is within the scope of this project. So rather than learn about what all of this is doing and creating it from scratch, we're going to steal some existing stuff. You'll also see a couple of other construction scripts. And if we go into some other blueprints, because like a mannequin has an animation blueprint, you'll see some other things in here like our Animgraph. So this is a set of blueprint instructions that allows our character to transition between different animation states depending on what's happening in the event graph. Okay? So let's go ahead and close this. All of that's really cool. Definitely something that's worth learning. But in this case, what we really just want is to get our character functional in the game. And to do that, I'm just going to use some existing elements that are already in here and kind of borrow those and alter them a little bit in order to make our own character blueprints. So I'm going to go back to my male character. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to say Animation, and then I'm going to do an animation blueprint. Okay. The skeleton that we want to apply this to is our male skeleton. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And there we go. And I want to call this male anim blueprint. Okay. So now that that's working, just to get rid of that little star thing there, I'm going to go Save All. Now, this animation blueprint is going to start off with a final pose. This is basically saying whatever we're having happening with the animation, this is the final result of that. It could be a blend between two other animations or transitions or whatever, but this is the final state that's going to show for our animation blueprint. We also have this event graph that is relatively empty. These two nodes here kind of come by default, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go steal some stuff from the other event graph that exists and paste those in here so we have those. So if I go back to our mannequin under animations, there's this third person blueprint, and you'll see that there's a whole bunch of stuff in this event graph. The two files that we already have are those two right there, so we don't need those. What we're going to do instead is we're going to drag select everything else, all this, and hit Control C. We can close this now and go back to our own male character, this male blueprint, and in here I'll just hit Control V to paste it. Okay, so the way the blueprint works is we can drag from different assets in these nodes and connect them to others. So we're going to drag from this event blueprint update animation. I'm going to hook that to execute, and I'm going to hook the return value into all of the input objects in here. So there's a couple of targets. We'll drag it from here to this target and from here to this target. Now once we've done that, I'm going to hit compile and save. You're going to see we're going to get a lot of errors here. That's okay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to go back to that mannequin blueprint as well. And instead of in the animation graph, I'm going to go to this default. This is our animation blueprint, and I'm going to go all the way back to here. So we saw that we had this final animation pose in our other blueprint. We need what's in this state machine, which is all of these connections here. Right? So we're going to go ahead and steal this state machine too. So I'm going to hit Control C, go ahead and minimize this, go back to my male character, and in the Animgraph here, I'm going to hit Control V, paste that in, and I'm going to hit compile and save, and we're getting a bunch of errors again here. That's okay. We kind of expected this to happen. Don't sweat it right now. Okay, so in our blueprint, we need to add some new variables in here. So currently we have, in the old blueprint, there were some variables that existed in there, and it's looking for them and not finding them, and so we're getting these errors. So you see these two variables here. So we're going to click this little plus sign by variable. I'm going to make this one, and we're going to call it is in air, right? And I'm going to put a question mark at the end of that. So you'll notice that this is red. It's got this little red dot, and if I go up here to my details, the reason for that is to tell us what type it is. It's a Boolean variable. It's a yes or no question. It's either 0 or 1. And if the character is in the air, well, the answer is yes. And if the character is on the ground, he's not in the air, then the answer is no. And this is a variable that lets our state machine know is our character jumping or falling off of something. Because if it is, we'll need to go into one of the jump loop animation or the jump up animation. So that's one of the variables, and it's fine to just be a Boolean. We're going to add another variable, and this one we're going to call speed. Now, speed is not a yes or no question, right? Speed is a varying number. How fast is our character going? And that could be any real number, right? So instead of Boolean, I'm going to click on this and set that to float. So go ahead and change the variable type. I'm okay with that. And then I'm going to go compile, save, and you'll see that we got rid of a few of the errors. So that's good. That's where we needed to be. So for the most part, this is okay now. We're going to go back to our animation graph because a lot of what we're going to change is now in this state machine. So, a state machine is is a way of letting our player know, or letting the animation pose know where we should be. So if our character's sitting still, it may be in the idle, but if we start moving, it has to transition into the run. Right? At any point, I can tap the space bar and make my character jump. Right? And if that happens, then it's going to play sort of a series of events. Right? So when I jump, it has to play the jump start animation. After the jump start animation is finished, it goes to the loop animation, and it will play that loop animation until my character gets close to the ground. When it gets close to the ground, it'll play the jump end animation, and after that, it has to go back to either the idle or the run. Okay, so depending on if my character is moving or not. So let's go ahead and double click on this idle run and start here. So the first thing we're going to notice, we're getting these errors, and it's because a lot of these files, or a lot of these nodes, are actually still looking at the mannequin, the thing we stole this from, right? So I'm actually just going to delete these things. Okay. And since we have our new speed animation, actually let me undo and make sure I'm doing this right. Wait, oh, sorry. Yeah, so it's the idle run 2D, just making sure. So what this actually is the blend space that we created earlier. So before I delete them, let's just copy our own versions in here so you can see. So we have our own blend space now. We don't need that one from the mannequin. So we can drag our blend space in here, and you'll see that we get that blend space option there. So I can plug that into the result, and it'll break that error. Now speed, this is the variable that was in the other blueprint, and we've made our own, so we can just move speed to here. Now it gives us an option. We either have the option to get what our character speed is or to set what our character speed is, and in this case we're just getting it. So we have speed, and so this will drive our character speed, and so now I can actually just delete these two. Now you'll notice we have a lot of errors down here. If I do compile and save, some of those errors go away. So that's what we're doing, is a little bit at a time. We're gonna fix these errors that are happening. So from the idle run state, I'm going to go back to default. Okay, and I'm just going to go around the circle here so I'll remember where I'm at. So this is a transition. This is something that transitions into this jump state. And so if I double click in here, the question is our character in the air? Now, we have a is in the air. We could drag that in here, but this is actually still tied to the transitions from the old animation. So I'm just going to go back to the default, and I'm actually just going to delete this, okay? Because all we really need is our variable is in the air and this, which is default that comes with it. So if I just select this and hit delete, I can create my own new transition by dragging this from here to here. So that's cool. Now I get this blend, and if I go in there, see I have my result. I needed that. All I need now is the is in the air. Say get, drag that to can enter transition. So again, if I hit compile, save, it's going to trim a few of those errors off, I think. So our jump start, let's look at it. So jump start is the jump up animation for me. So we want to play the third person jump start. Okay, so I'm just going to right click, start saying play. And this is third person, see, play. Maybe I have to do male. Yeah, there we go. Play male jump up. Okay, so that's basically what we're looking for there. I'm going to drag that into the result, and so it disconnects that. Now I can delete that. Now, here's the thing. This animation can play forever. Right? I didn't really mean to double click on that, but it will loop forever. Right? We don't always want it to loop. We actually just want it to play at one time and then stop. So if I select that node, you'll see up here I have the option to loop it. I'm just going to uncheck that. I don't want it to loop that animation forever. So then I can hit compile, save, and it will trim off a few more of those errors. So I'm going to go back to default. So that was there. Now the next thing we need is this transition to the loop. If I go into here, there's a couple of nodes in here that will be handy for us. Really just this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this. This is saying to set a time remaining, and you can enter the transition after that. So what I'm really needing is this time remaining ratio, which I think is time remaining ratio for the jump up, I think is what I'm looking for. And I need this node here. So rather than have to create that node from scratch, it's actually not too hard, but just in case, Control C, and we're going to save that one. Okay, we're going to go back to our default and just delete this. So I'm going to create a new connection again, go back into that. So we got that. I can paste that node I just copied, right? And what I'm needing is to right click, and we'll start saying time remaining, we're doing ratio, male jump up. Okay, so it's that fourth one down from E. So we need that node, we'll bring it in, and so we'll plug that into the top, and then we'll go from out to there. So basically what this is saying is however much of the jump is left, it will start to transition into the, and then we can change that number there to change how much of the jump is left before it triggers this animation. So that was there in this node. So now we're on to jump loop. Now jump loop is pretty easy. It's actually just that, play third person jump loop. So I'm just going to start typing that. Play, mine's called male. Play male jump loop. Right. And so I can just replace that with it. And again, just delete that. Compile, save. Okay, we're definitely getting closer here. Okay, so back to default. So we got the jump loop. We're cool there. Oh, and it's okay for this one to loop because it should loop. We're going to continue playing through it over and over again. So now we need the transition back to jump end. Okay. So what is actually happening here is we just have this node that is saying no to is the character in the air. So if he's not, then it will, play this next result. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and select this not and hit Control C, and then I'm going to go back to default and just delete that entire transition. Drag that back. I can paste that. Paste that, not. And what we're looking for is in the air. Is in the air. I'm going to do get, and then drag from that to that, from that to that. Okay, so that's all we're looking for there. Default. Again, compile, save. We're seeing some of them end. So jump end. If I double click jump end, it's looking for an animation. Again, that's not there. Play. Actually, I also think that there's a chance we can just drag it from in here, jump down. Yeah, so that also works to just drag it from over here. So play jump down, plug that in, and then delete. Okay. Compile, save. We're down to just a couple more errors, so that makes sense. So we've got to there. Really, it's just this last node here. So let's look at it. It's, again, that value setter. So Control C, and what I'm going to need is time remaining ratio again. So I'm going to go back, delete this, recreate it, go ahead and put that time remaining ratio in there, or this value in there, and then I'm going to right click and do time remaining ratio male jump down. Right. Plug this into the top, plug this into there. Nope. Plug this into there, and we're going to hit compile, save. Okay, so all of our errors seem to be fixed now. So, one last thing I need to go back and do, almost forgot. On our jump end, remember this animation, it's looping too. So we're going to uncheck loop just to make sure it doesn't loop forever. So again, compile, save. All right. So that's what we needed, but yet still, when I play, still got this guy. Okay, let me look at my notes here and make sure I'm not skipping anything. Okay. Yep, we're cool there. So, once we get into here, this is a player start, and just from, this is not from my experience, but just from a couple of other notes I've read from other people, this is not the best player start to use or to change. So they actually suggested just deleting this. So I'm gonna follow their instructions just because I don't know any better. So this is the player start that actually has a lot of information that we may need. So under our third person blueprint, so I believe it's under here. Let me check and see if it's this one. Yeah, we can go over to viewport. Okay. Now currently, let's see. And then we need this mesh inherited. So if I select that, you'll see that the mesh that is inherited in this little capsule is really what's moving around, and the mesh that is actually it's referring to is our SK mannequin, and that's not what we want. So let's go ahead and choose our character instead. Let's do male. So now it's bringing him in, but you'll see that if I were to hit compile and save, I could go out here and play that now, and my character is there, but when I move around, it's not playing any of those animations. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the third person character, and in the viewport, I'm going to select him again, this mesh inherited, right? It's because we haven't told it which blueprint to use for that. So our animation class currently set to none. Wait, animation blueprint. Is it this? New male? I thought I just called it male. Let's try that and see. Yeah, that actually seems to be working. So under anim class, I just chose new male anim blueprint. And so I'm going to hit compile, save. And now when I close this and hit play, so my character is idling. You'll also notice my character is a little bit off the floor. We'll fix that here in a minute. And when I run around, my character is running. You'll also notice that when I jump, it plays the jump animation, and we get some pretty good results. Now, the thing that is not working right now that will be working soon is if I click, our character is not punching, and that's the next thing I'm wanting to make it do. But this is actually working pretty well, and I think this is a good place to save and carry on to the next video. So I'm going to do File, Save All, and we'll pick this up in the next video. Thanks.